it's hard to lead people who have. Because the vantage point, your experiences, the way that you navigate these different levels of wealth, these different levels of access, it requires different discipleship, and discipleship can only be effective if the person discipling has experienced what that person is experiencing. And when someone has experienced it and they haven't, right? It's just you could tell, okay, he knows what he's talking about. She knows that's the most effective type. So that's it's definitely apparent, and it seems like, and what he said was interesting. There's more affluent people now than there were before.
Did you know that people who attend church 1 to 2 times a month has declined from 34% to 28% of people? So let's talk about why in this video. A study by the Institute of Family Studies has found that people attending church 1 to 2 times per month has declined from 34% down to 28%. And after reading that study, I came across an article by Ryan Burge that I shared in my weekly newsletter, On the Rise. That's a newsletter where I share my top insights from the week. And the article from Ryan Burge basically says you can no longer assume that someone who says they're an evangelical will still go to church. In fact, there are as many non-attending self-described evangelicals as there are mainline Christians in America. Let me say that again, okay, because that's nuts. There are as many non-church attending self-described evangelicals as there are mainline Christians in America.
1 to 2 times a month? Bro! You remember how many times we would go to church?
Per week?
Per week, bro.
Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, Bible study, Wednesday night, Monday night.
At least midweek. 3 times. Like, if you're like sort of to be a member at our church, 3 times minimum a week.
Yeah. And then you had Saturday morning prayer, or
like,
and then you had
5 to 7 times for extracurricular. And if you were
Saturday outreach,
but if you were like a
SMO,
you got preached about on a reg.
Yeah.
1 to 2 times a month. Good Lord.
But I may be jumping again because I haven't seen this video, but I think part of that is, at least in my experience, church is not building community like it has in times past. I was talking to a person that
hold up. Let's run it a little more.
We'll talk on the other side.
I mean, that blew my mind when I read it, and the trend isn't going away. In fact, it's accelerating. It impacts, if you think about it, almost every church, regardless of size, denomination, or even location, and really changes the mix of people that you're trying to reach. It probably also marks a seismic shift in how the church will do ministry in the future. Of course, let's be honest, high attendance is never the goal, okay? The goal is not just to fill a room, it's to fulfill a mission. But your attendance shouldn't be ignored because it's a sign of something deeper that every church leader is going to have to wrestle with over the next few years. The first key to addressing what's happening is to understand why it's happening. And that's what I want to cover in the rest of our time together in this video. So why are even committed attendees attending less often? Reason number 1, greater affluence. Believe it or not, even with high inflation and crazy house prices, greater affluence is impacting people's church attendance. You see, money gives people options. And if your church is at all engaging the middle class, the upper middle class, or a suburban demographic, an interesting trend is happening right now. The true middle class is shrinking because more of the middle class is becoming upper class or lower class. There are simply more affluent people than there were even a few decades ago, which explains why so many average people indulge their obsessions. They want the perfect HGTV, Pinterest-styled home. They want great cars. They're taking vacations on a regular basis, and they have the lifestyle of the mega wealthy, even when they're not mega wealthy. Now, naturally, this leaves a huge theological vacuum, a void about ministry and how to deal with people who are affluent and how to deal with the poor. But it also helps explain what's actually happening in the suburbs, and increasingly with the reurbanization of many cities as the affluent move back downtown. I'm not arguing that this is the way things should be, but if you look at the number of younger people who are traveling, millennials who have an affluent lifestyle, I'm simply showing that this is what appears to be happening in our culture. Again, people with money have options. They have technology options, they have travel options, and they have options for their kids. And arguably, that affluence may be one of the factors moving them further away from a committed engagement with the mission of the local church. Not saying it's right, just saying it's true.
He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. Because if you have income brings choices. And a lot of times you have to grow in knowledge as well to grow your income. Sometimes you get to a point where you're no longer feeding that person that has the affluent lifestyle. And if you go to a church where you're affluent and you feel like you're their one or two or three people that they lean on financially, that could be taxing. Yeah. And if you're the affluent person, you have other demands, and so much so that you have to create some kind of balance. And Sunday might be your only day to really disconnect from whatever it is that you're doing to generate income.
Yeah, I can remember when we were in church, not many of us had money. I was in college, just graduated or something, just starting your career.
My money was definitely funny.
We were all just there. You know, we loved the Lord, but we didn't have no money. we were kind of just survive it. So it definitely makes sense. So, and then two, a lot of pastors that we knew didn't have money either. Right? Yeah. So they didn't have money. We didn't have money. We just all tried to survive together. But when you do gain a level of influence and you realize, I don't have to be here. Because you kind of had a sense, especially at the beginning, you're really zealous. You believe what's being said and everything. And you're just like, there's a greater pressure, right? Where you're feeling like this is really helping you and getting you to another level. But when you get to a certain place in your life where you have options, like you said, you can travel more. You don't have to come. You want to do things with your family that you did not at one point have the money to do.
And you're exposed to more too. And a great leader and author said that leadership is the lid. Sometimes your growth may mean that, you might have to get fed from a couple different places. In my experience, sometimes you're so focused on reaping as a organization that you don't take time to nourish and develop those that have already. The other day I got a flyer for via text from someone to invite me to church. And I know the evangelist that is preaching at that. And I know that this person is all about reaping the lost and being filled with the Holy Ghost. And that is his niche. That is his specialty. He is a reaper. That event will not feed my spirit. I'm glad, I'm excited for those that are meeting the Lord, those that are experiencing deliverance, 100%. But me attending that will not feed me spiritually. It will not equip me for what I'm about to go through in life.
You haven't experienced affluence. It's hard to lead people who have. Because the vantage point, your experiences, the way that you navigate these different levels of wealth, these different levels of access, it requires different discipleship, and discipleship can only be effective if the person discipling has experienced what that person is experiencing. And you know when someone has experienced it and they haven't, right? It's just you could tell, okay, he knows what he's talking about. She knows that's the most effective of type. So it's definitely apparent. And it seems like, and what he said was interesting. There's more affluent people now than there were before.
Yeah. And
People
there's more color too. There's more of both ends. There's very little in the middle.
The middle is basically evaporating. So
you have to decide. You have to decide now. Who are you gonna call binary choice? You either pick this to be a church of the affluent or be a church of the poor.
You can be the church of the poor and still have a good
affluent people. It's a church that has a mission. Yeah, you could do that.
If you're effective in what you're doing, you can a lot of times get the donation from people who are affluent. It's just you have to be focused and not double dipping. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to focus on what you're called to do, and then a lot of times you'll receive from those that are affluent.
They'll give consistently if they see the fruits of that work. But good, yeah, I agree 100% with that.